And welcome back, everyone, to Box Office Report today on the 24th of March, 2024. It took me a long, I kept updating to see, or clicking the button to refresh the Box Office Mojo site to see when it was going to refresh. But coming in at number one, not shockingly, it was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, $45.2 million. Honestly, not terrible. Not a bad opening. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Dune Part 2 opens with, or Dune Part 2 opens, and its fourth week, drops only 38.3%. I think I did call that. It would be number 2, 17.6 million. Kung Fu Panda number 4, 16.7 million. Both taking great drops, honestly. Less than 50, less than 40 for Dune. Immaculate debuts at 5.3 million. I don't think I got that one in there in the top 5 because I just didn't think anyone cared about it. And to be fair, 5.3 million kind of shows no one cared. And then Arthur the King drops to, and it's only in week 2, to 4.3 million. So Ghostbusters Frozen Empire debuts at 45.2 million. And international right now at 16.4 for 61.6 million. Now, obviously, the international will probably increase as time goes on. But as a starting number, that's actually not bad. To put that in context, I literally looked this up earlier. Ghostbusters Afterlife, as I have the tab over here, debuted with $44 million. So it debuted with $1 million more than the previous Ghostbusters, which is good. And $1 million less than the 2016 one. So yeah, now the film was made apparently on about $100 million. You're looking at anywhere from 75 to 100 million in marketing. I tried to find that, couldn't find the exact number on that, but let's just, for a conservative number, let's just round it up to 200 million. I think it'd probably be a little less, but let's say that 200 million in total, which means the film has to hit 300 million. So this is not a great start, but with international, that you can't look at the first week international and think, oh god, it's gonna bomb. You can't do that. In fact, seeing as we're talking about Ghostbusters, look what the Ghostbusters 2016 one did internationally. $100 million just on that alone. Then there's the Afterlife, which did 74.9 million. Not as good, but still made more, or a little less, but still made, it was on a relatively low budget. So this is well within that realm. The audience score was good last I checked, around 87 million. By the way, I commented to this person, so I wanted to wait till this came up. Someone clearly doesn't know how reviews work. I had a comment in my review for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire where the person said, and you can find it in the comment section, you just keep talking and talking. You don't even show any clips of the movie. I think you just like to hear yourself talk. Or sorry, you just keep rambling and rambling. You don't even show any clips of the movie. I think you just like to hear yourself talk. To which I very simply responded to, do you not know what a review is? A review is when you look at a product, be it music, film, theater, whatever, and give your thoughts, opinions, break down, and analyze what you liked and didn't like, what worked, the structure, all that. Guess what? That doesn't require any imagery. Now, if you don't agree with my opinion or just didn't like the review, that's totally fine. But it's very clear that the person who made the comment, that's not what bothered them. Which makes me wonder, are you just one of these little youngsters these days? And I say that, I'm 34 now. I can call you a youngster if you're 60 or younger, so fuck you. Who just can't process the idea of, hey, guess what? We didn't always show clips of the movie. In fact, a lot of YouTubers still don't do that. So, yeah, you could just bite me. Normally I try to be a lot more civil when someone does this because I want to be the bigger man. But every once in a while, I'm just going to say, F you. That's just a stupid opinion. That is a stupid opinion. That's just my opinion. Maybe you agree with this person. If you do, whatever. I digress. My review for that, obviously, this is up. You can watch it if you were so interested in my full review. Our full opinion. The summarized opinion I had, though, was I liked the film. Actually, it was a lot of fun. It's not as good as Afterlife. I do think it's not as good because I think the nostalgia beats hit perfectly in Afterlife while balancing with the new crew. I think they also did, they did the character of Phoebe a little wrong, I think. And they just introduced so many new concepts, not maybe so many, but a couple of great new concepts that just don't pan out, I think. Also, while the third act is fun, I also think the third act is a little wacky, to be honest, even for me, even in a Ghostbusters film. And it just goes more towards when I'm analyzing this, I'm like, wait, why is this happening but not happening here? Anyway, I digress. So that being said, 45.2 million. Now, if we're to look at both Ghostbusters Afterlife and Ghostbusters 2016, Ghostbusters Afterlife made around 129 million domestic alone. Ghostbusters 2016, which are the two more modern, made 129 million. So, and roughly speaking, that's kind of the ratio or range we're looking here in terms of the reviews, at least for the think words here, casual viewing audience, the people who are voting with their dollars. The critic score isn't that great. It's like 44 or 43 now, but not far from the worst you could have. So if we're looking, so this film does have to hit around 300. If I'm being nice when I say this, between 270 to 300. That's basically our range we have to do to break even here. Unfortunately, they don't have the record of doing that. They've only hit like the low 200 range. So we'll have to see if the international really kicks up, really aids in, or if this just has a really good domestic run, which is going to be hard because this coming week we have Godzilla and Kong, which will be number one over Ghostbusters this week. Even if it only makes in the 40 some odd million, it's going to be number one. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. So we're going to have to keep an eye on Ghostbusters, because I did like it, and I do want to see more in the franchise. It is what it is. It's about what I expected it to do, too, so I'm not overly surprised. But should know that 45 million on a $100 million budget is not a bad result. Anything over 50% of your budget is great. Anything over 50% of your budget is great, and that's usually what you want. But in the secondary margin, if you can go between 50% and like 33%, this is basically 45%, that's still not a bad number. So we'll keep an eye on what Ghostbusters is going to be doing. Hopefully it's going to get some repeat viewing, because even though I didn't have a lot of people in my theater, the people in my theater were actually having a good time, and I was having a good time. Speaking of films where you had a good time, but I'm good with seeing it. Dune Part 2 made our 17.6, dropping less than 40%. It's taking some phenomenal drops. And it's now very much in the profit range, so 574. It had to make, like they estimate, around 510. But we've now hit the wall. I said last week, wall's not the right term. We've hit the confirmation button here. I said last week that if this coming week, it was somewhere in like the mid to high 600 millions, there could still be an outside chance, or there could still be a chance it's $1 billion. This film didn't even hit 600 this weekend, which means it's official. This film's not hitting $1 billion. It just isn't going to do it. But that being said, it no longer has to do that to make money. First off, it never had to do that to make money, but it doesn't have to do that to be successful. It is right now considered to be among the best films, if not the best film of the year, and I would say that too. If I were to do my ranking right now, I've seen at least 10 films. This would be number one. But it's now in the profit range. It's in the profit range. It's critically loved. It's audience loved. It's good. It's great. Wonderful. I guess the question just is, why didn't this hit $1 billion? Because as long as it is, and it is a bit of a long movie. It's 2 hours and 46 minutes, so it is on the longer side, but not like 3 hours. So why didn't it get the $1 billion? Well, first off, usually the films that can hit $1 billion are usually opening to 100+ million. Not all the time. The first Avatar is the prime example of that, or Titanic is the prime example of that, but still. Usually, opening to a bigger number is going to give you a better chance at that. I mean, you look at what Mario and Barbie did last year. They both opened to 100 million plus, and both those films crossed the $1 billion mark. So usually, if your film opens to 100 million plus, you've got a good shot. Or at least you've got a better shot than other films. So that's one. But two, and I do think this is an issue. The film, I think, is a little too intelligent. Now, what do I mean by that? And I don't mean that to say that anyone who's not going to see that is necessarily an idiot. In fact, I'm not saying it at all. I did have one person, though. I don't know if I said this. Sorry, but I'll tell this real quick. When I was going to see, was it Arthur the King last week? Yeah, Arthur the King. I was going in. I got a Cinemark, and it's in the mall. So I get in there, and I'm walking past the automatic pay booths or consoles, and I'm just said, I'm just gonna go in. I've got cash today, so I don't want to bother with that. And I want these like high schoolers. I want to say they're probably between like 14 and 16, maybe 17. And a couple of them a few of them are definitely broy. So I'm just walking, I don't mind my business. I can hear what they're saying. And I and I heard one guy says like, "Oh man, I wish you could get tickets to see Dune, man." I thought, man, it's like, dude, you're such a loser for liking that. Like, and I wanted to stop, but they were already walking away, and I'm like, look, they're just. But I'm like, who the hell are you to be mocking someone? Like, do you think you're actually funny or smart when you say stuff like that? You just make yourself look like a bigger asshole and a bigger loser than you're making him out to be. Like, why do you need to just harsh on things people like? Now, it could be they're just friends and all that, but even if they're friends, why are you mocking your friend for what they like? Like, that's just, I don't get, even back when I was that age, I'm like, I never called someone a loser for that. I do remember a couple times saying it about some products, and I do regret doing that because I think I made some people feel bad. And so I do regret that. I've done it before, and I do admit that. And so I've learned as I've gotten older to be like, let people like what they like. It's fine. But yeah, I'm just like, that's such a stupid mentality. But I think that leans itself to the point I was making about being too intelligent, where it is, if you didn't see the first Dune, you're admittedly going to be a little lost about what's going on in this movie. So unfortunately, this is one of those sequels where, and like the MCU, to use that example, always up until recently, made it very easy for people to come in and access the MCU anyway through any movie, and you can kind of pick up what's going on, even with the sequels. Dune 2 isn't one of those movies. Dune 2, you need the build up from the previous movie to understand what's kind of going on here. So I think, and because of that, it's also a very dense, very lore heavy, very political. There's a lot more actions in the second one, which helps, the visual stimulus and all that. But yeah, I think because of that, there's a lot of people who just don't want to deal with that. I know me and my dad was one of those people who just wasn't really into it because it was just, it was a little dragging. The first one, mind you, it was a little dragging, very dense in lore and all that. And if you don't understand what's going on, it's going to fly right over your head. So it could be a bit of that. It could just be, and I don't know, and it's clear that people aren't burnt out on sci-fi films because this film has already made $574 million. It will cross the $600 million mark. I have no doubt about that. Might even hit 700, but $1 billion is not going to happen. I think, yeah, Dune is just a very dense series. It's a very dense series. And so I think it's a little hard to be accessible that way. But still, we can't knock on it. It's $574 million. It's the highest grossing film of the year thus far, but it won't be. Guarantee you Deadpool will surpass it now that we know it's not hitting $1 billion. Because Deadpool 2, most people feel very confident, including myself, to say that's near lock to hit $1 billion plus. But I digress. We move on. Kung Fu Panda 4, $16.7 million, and currently has crossed $268 million, which puts it in the profit range, where we are now profitable, folks. It is done profit, yeah. Even if I were to, hypothetically, give it the exact same marketing budget that its production budget had, which would mean it's $170 million altogether, which I don't believe it is. It's probably closer to like 150 when you add it all up. This film is very much now profitable. And now it's just a matter of where is it going to end. It's still going to be the lowest grossing of all the Kung Fu Pandas to date right now, and probably long term too. This film, the lowest of the Kung Fu Pandas, made like 4 something, I believe. It's going to be difficult for this film to do that. But it doesn't necessarily need to. Yeah, the money's going down, but they're still making the money. So hypothetically, they could still warrant making a 5th one. And it's still a decently reviewed film. It was a fun time. It's the only animated kids film in town right now. So it's still going to have a good run of April. And you're really not going to see any competition for it for family fun films until If and then Garfield come out. And then whatever gas is left in Kung Fu Panda's tank will be used up. But yeah, no, it's still having a good run. I'm glad it's getting success, so good for it. And remember, success doesn't mean you have to be better than the next. Success just means you have to succeed. So yeah, Immaculate, 5.3 million. I just, let's see, Cecilia, a woman of devout faith, is warmly welcomed into the picture-perfect Italian countryside, where she is offered a new role as an illustration covet. But it becomes clear to Cecilia that the new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets. Ooh. Now, let's get the Rotten Tomatoes up here for a second. I'm curious. I am legit curious right now. Where is Immaculate on the Rotten Tomatoes scale? Because I vaguely remember seeing the trailer for it, and I am okay with it. I've said it before. Horror is not my genre. It's not generally my jam. I don't hate horror. There's actually plenty of horror films I do like. But yeah, no. What do you mean The Purge is coming up, new and upcoming in theaters? Are we getting a new Purge? Whatever. Immaculate, 72%. Okay, good for it. Yeah, I don't know why we're seeing films that are, we're already up. In the Land of Saints and Sinners. Yeah, that's a nice name. We still don't have a review yet on Godzilla vs. Kong, but the longer we wait, the worse that's looking for Godzilla vs. Kong in terms of at least critical review. Ghostbusters, like I said, has a 43% right now. 43% right now. But its audience score, like I said, is... Where's my audience score? Where are you? You're going to show up here. 84%. Actually, I think it's going up. Or it went down. Either way, it's 84%. Hey, look, that's where the money comes from. So as long as the audience is enjoying a film, we've seen this with Transformers films, as long as an audience is enjoying a film, it could still do well. So good. And as well as for Immaculate, that film's either made on a next to nothing budget, in which case it will do just fine, or it's not going to do well. $5 million for almost any film is not going to do well. I wish to God the movie I worked on, which you probably never watch, and probably never will watch, let's be honest. I wish to God the film we made made $5 million in its entire run. I think it made like less than 10 grand, but it's fine. It's all good. But yeah, it's because A, I would have gotten a nice paycheck out of that, but B, it would have that would have been super successful. I had like a percentage paycheck. I didn't actually get paid. I got paid with a percentage, and it just never made its money back for that percentage. So there it is. But yeah, I mean, hypothetically, that if I were to think on what I would have made on that, I had me and Mark we're splitting a 1.5% percentage. That would mean that me and Mark, when I divvied out the monies, would have made about what? 35 million, 38 million each, 8 million, 38,000 each on one paycheck. More than I've ever made in one go. That's for certain. But yeah, no, it is what it is. Arthur the King made 4.3 million this week. It's now also got a little bit of an international bump, so that's good. Only 75 grand, but still. 14.7 million. Hey, that's not bad at all. Yeah, no, it's all good. But unfortunately, Arthur the King's not going to be making its money back because it's got to be made on at least 20 to 30 million, and that's just not enough. Late Night with the Devil, the new film with what's his name? Yeah, I literally just watched Cinema Therapy with him earlier this week. Let's see, the cast and crew. David Dashamalic. I'm butchering your name. Love him as an actor. Love seeing him as Polka Dot Man, Suicide Squad. I like seeing him and stuff. Yeah, so. But Late Night with the Devil made 2.8 million. It's gonna be like it was never gonna light up the screen. Let's be honest. But hey, look, it's a minor win. Those films are made on very little, so minor wins. Imaginary, 2.8 million. Okay, it's hit 30 million. It's probably going to be at least a break-even film. So that's good for Imaginary. Blumhouse surprisingly has not had the best year so far, which is interesting. They didn't do. Pick words. Night Swim did basically make its money back. Imaginary looks like it will at least break even, which is good. But you would expect Blumhouse, which can usually crank out hits, or at least crank out movies that are able to reap profit, whether they're good or bad, would be able to do that again. But it looks like audiences are kind of maybe getting a little tired of mediocre film. It kind of, again, I hate to always just bring back MCU or comic stuff into it, right? But it goes to the whole idea of comic book fatigue. There is not comic book fatigue, at least not in the general zeitgeist. It's not comic book fatigue. It's bad movie fatigue. It's mediocre movie fatigue. If the movies were still good, no one would be complaining about this. But the fact is, we've had now a lackluster. And by the way, it's never been. It's been a golden age of comic book movies only because really of the MCU, plus Spider-Man and a few other things coming out. But the DCEU wasn't making always the best films. The other minor comic book films that came out didn't always do well. But because the MCU was always kicking off, no one actually noticed the fact that it was lackluster material up until the MCU started to do it. So I get so sick and tired of hearing that, because you know it's the people who've been arguing it for years, and now they're just like, vindication! It's like, no vindication, because you're not right. They're in their worst state, where their best movie still makes like $900 million, but their worst film does actually lose money. So, and I mean, I wouldn't even say Marvel's is their worst film. I digress. So the point being, it's the same thing with Blumhouse, where it's like you can't keep putting out mediocre fatigue. Like, you didn't just make low budget movies that made money. You made usually good movies that made money as well. So it's not like Blumhouse is in trouble. Like I said, Night Swim still ended up making a little bit of money. It didn't lose the money. And Imaginary also looks like it's going to do that. So, yeah. Regardless, Love Lies Bleeding, 1.5 million. 5.8 million for a worldwide total. Sorry. Yeah, 5.8 million worldwide total. Again, a movie that's not making its money back. These are all a lot of these are movies that aren't making their money back. Caprini's another one that's probably not going to make their money back. But good for it for being able to actually squeeze it out, like something no one's ever heard of from a relatively new studio, Angel Studios. The Bob Marley One Love film, 1.1 million, 173 million. That's pretty done. Like, all these films that we're talking about here are all pretty done, to be honest. Pretty done. They run hell. Even the American Society of Magical Negroes, which I saw earlier this week, even that's not going to be making a lot of money. It also didn't get the best reviews. In fact, can I find what the current reviews? Last I checked, it was like 30s for that movie. And I like the movie. It's because it's satire. There's a lot that normally I'd say, I don't know if that's 100% correct, but because it's satire, I'm like, okay, no, I can, yeah, it's fine. Oh, it dropped from my last 31%. But the audience at least liked it more. It was like 60 some odd on the audience. Migration, like I said, is pretty done. I mean, what is Migration at? 289, maybe if it's lucky, it hits like 295 or something like that. But it's done. Like, all of these guys are pretty much done at this point. So, yeah, so it wasn't a good week at the box office? Yeah, it's still a good week at the box office. You just look at the top 5 alone, which is where, the bulk of your money is right now. That's what? Let's see, 70, 34, 79. Well, actually, hold on, 79. Just doing the math, 79.5, about, what, 84... 89, almost, actually, if you do the top 11 where it's all a million, it's almost $100 million at the box office, almost. So that's not bad at all. Not bad at all for a weekend. Ghostbusters was a moderate success, at least for its opening week. We'll see what the ultimate box office looks like down the road. But as we've said, we have a new contender coming up. Godzilla X-Con, the new Kong, the X-Con. Godzilla is an X-Con, but he's with a heart of gold, but he's willing to do what it takes to beat that Kong. But no, Godzilla X-Kong, New Empire, will obviously be number 1 this week. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Let's see. Given the drops these guys are taking, Dune 2 and Kung Fu Panda, they are losing some screens, but not a lot. If I were to assume that Dune 2 takes another 30-some-odd drop, let's say 35 for an easy number, that means you're looking at a film that's dropping 51, it's about 6 million. So that means it's coming out at around 11 million next week, roughly speaking. Kung Fu Panda going to be dropping probably in the 40 to high 30, let's just say 40%. So that means we're dropping about another 6 and some odd million. So that's about 10. So yeah, Ghostbusters. So it'll be Kong, Godzilla and Kong, Ghostbusters, Dune 2, Kung Fu Panda. Ooh man. I'll go Arthur the King. It dropped only 40% this week. Immaculate will probably drop more. Even though there's about $1 million difference between them, if Arthur the King is dropping less and Immaculate drops more, that's going to be the deciding factor. But we'll have to wait and see what the box office really looks like. What do you got for the box office? Let me know. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. What did you think of this week's box office? Why do you think some films succeeded where others failed? And failed where others succeeded? Let me know what you think on that. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you